Welcome back to Post Excavation here at the field school. So we've been hard at work today doing lots and lots of fines washing. So the students have been cleaning various artefacts that have come out of our trenches and field walking from our field school. I just wanted to highlight some of the really interesting bits of pottery that are coming out of the cleaning today. So first up we have this really lovely tray that is full of early 1st, 2nd century Roman pottery. It's not as good quality as some of the later material getting out of the site, but it's really helping us to understand the story of the site. So this came out of one of the trenches where we thought it might be 1st, 2nd century, and now actually the finds and the features are connecting together. We also have this lovely tray of finds as well, which is coming out with lots of 3rd and 4th century Roman pottery. And what's interesting about this, again, it's really helping us to understand the landscape that we're in at the moment. So the further out we push eastwards, the later and later the finds are starting to get, which is actually really helping us to understand what Romano-British people were doing in this area.
So this is the last day with lovely Team 7. We're still not quite at the point where we can say definitively which roundhouse is earlier than which of the two we've looked at before over there, but things have got more complicated because we've got potentially one more roundhouse gully here and another roundhouse gully here, or they could be parts of the same roundhouse. So it's looking like we might have as many as 5 or even 6 roundhouses in the bottom half of this trench, all more or less in the same place. And in terms of dating them, we are completely reliant on their spatial relationships to each other. We haven't had a tiny number of finds out. In fact, we're in the bizarre position of having more Neolithic flints come out of our Roman roundhouse than we have Roman pottery. So that's a good point to talk about the lithic debris that's coming off this whole area, I suppose, because we've done some field walking over the past few weeks up here, on and off, and we are now getting very nice lithic scatter of lithic material from across this whole area. So curiously, the artefacts we're getting are telling us more about the Neolithic and Bronze Age than they are about the Roman period.
Okay, well this is the western area of the Heslington East 2021 excavation. Over to my right, which is in the eastern part, to the east of me, after the first cleaning of the top early on in the excavation, we identified I suppose a kind of greyish brown band of soil, apparently extending down the slope from the top edge of the excavation here, visible for quite some distance, and we considered that this was likely to be some kind of, well, possibly a ditch, some kind of linear boundary feature running north-south down the slope of the site. The site in this area and elsewhere has been very heavily impacted on and damaged by very recent ploughing, which has caused a great deal of disturbance of both the natural geology and the archaeological deposits on the site. So our first task was to empty out those plough scars, which was quite time consuming because they were quite big and quite deep. But having done so, we were able to trace what we were thinking of as the line of our ditch, represented by this band of grey-brown soil. And this part of Group 9 are currently in the process of excavating the fill of that feature. It does appear to be quite shallow. It's not as deep as we anticipated it might be, and it's not impossible that what we actually have here is a trace of medieval ploughing, perhaps the furrow of ridge and furrow, if you like. Now, looking to the west on my left, this part of the excavation was informed by two things really. One thing that we discovered in the northern edge of the excavation that was undertaken a decade or so ago, and which was emptied out by machine. You may be able to see behind me that the level of the excavation drops away quite steeply. That's where the northern edge of a previous excavation was, and in the section of that, when we cleaned it up, we identified a very clearly deliberately created layer of cobbles, about probably 60 or 70 centimetres long in the section, and we think that to be the footing of some kind of boundary feature, and if we're talking about a cobbled footing, we imagine a wall. Our confidence in this possibility was improved or increased by the fact that the geophysical survey of the site, undertaken by Hen Goodchild before the excavation began, did seem to indicate a positive anomaly running down the north-south down the site, and when we correlated the cobble footing we'd found in the edge of the previous excavation and that geophysical anomaly, they matched up pretty perfectly. So there seems to be good evidence of well, what we'd have to imagine would be a wall running north-south down the site just to my left.